the secondary flight plan is a really good thing because we can get the weather of the alternate airport, we can calculate the performance, we can put everything in here. I can basically take any point over here and enter. The flight plan I have in the secondary flight plan is basically the same as the primary flight plan. And now I can take the point ahead of us and I can enter a new destination. For example, Munich. Now I can lead Vrana. Now I have the present position and now the aircraft will calculate its way direct to Munich. I can enter the whole arrival, what runway I want to land on. For example, I can calculate my performance setting. I can put in all the weather data and minimum, and then basically all the approach is set up. So once you need to take a decision fast, you're able to do it fast because you already have the information, you already have a mental picture, and that's why you can decide fast. If I'm just sitting around over here and then something happens and then I'm starting to gather all the information, then it's going to cost time, and sometimes you don't have it.
This is going into the direction to talk about canned decisions. So when he falls down, when the aircraft is in real danger, we have our decision already on our display, we just execute. That's the preparation which leads to the canned decision. And I'm pretty sure, Gabriel, that the viewers will now write comments like, they forgot to enter the wind here in our wake time point. Maybe you can pick up that one. Yeah, correct, we did not enter the wind for here. That's only because those two airports have a distance of 100 miles. So entering the wind here would just be a game around 10, 15, 20 seconds difference. Later on, when we are in remote areas, especially here, then we will for sure enter the wind. You see here, it's around hundreds of miles. Here we'll enter every single wind, because there it's a game around minutes, and minutes are very important to save lives, or save the aircraft.
On the navigation display, it only calculates your current ground speed, which has the current wind in it, and your current trajectory, the mileage to go there. But the flight management computer has the whole route in it, it has flight level changes in it, and it has the estimated winds for each area in it. So therefore the time over here has a difference of 2 minutes compared to over here.
Oh, wow.
This might mean that the tailwind we have right now might decrease a little, and therefore we would be there a little later. So if ATC asks us for any estimates, it's better to look them up over here. This is just to get a general idea. And today was a special takeoff because we were departing with some tailwind. And for the A330neo, that means we have a special takeoff procedure because the engines are quite wind sensitive if the wind is coming from a strong crosswind or from a tailwind. And we were just below the tailwind limit. Therefore we departed runway 18 with 8 knots of tailwind, and that's the reason why we had to perform a toga takeoff. Toga means takeoff or go-around power, which means we have the full available thrust for the engines. And those of you who follow pilot vlogs a lot know that we always try to only use as much thrust as we need to save the engine lifetime. Because the less thrust you use, the longer the intervals can be in between the maintenance sessions, and that's more economical, but also it saves the wear of the parts, so it's also environmentally friendly because you can use the parts for longer. But sometimes in situations like today where we're quite heavy, we have a tailwind, that's not possible. Therefore we had to select the toga thrust, therefore I also briefed it as a highlight when we were taxiing down to the runway. The other highlight was the tailwind procedure. Because the engines are quite sensitive to tailwind and crosswind, we start every takeoff with a strong crosswind or tailwind stationary. That means we have our foot on the braking paddles, we put in 50% of thrust, let it stabilize, then we release the pedals, we increase the thrust to 60% N1, you can see it. That's right now we're cruising with 85%, we put it to 60, we wait until we have a stable ground speed of 30 knots, and above that we put in either flex MCT or in today's case the toga power and take off. This procedure costs some takeoff distance. You have more wear on the engines obviously. Basically that's my foredeck help sheet, that's like a mental model we use. We use it for decision making, and the F stands for facts, O stays for options. So facts could be, fact is that runway 03 right and 21 left in Athens is closed right now, so I can't use it. Facts could also be I have a medical problem with a passenger, or I have a technical problem, or whatever. That goes into facts. Then options, the airports I have around me, and there I need the information. Is the runway available or isn't it? What weather do I have, and so on. What equipment do I have, and so on. Risks and benefits. So for example, one runway is closed, could go into risks, you know. And then we come to D, which stands for decision. Then we take the decision and execute it. The C stands for check. So we always check in time intervals if something changes, and if we have to use our mental model again to adapt it to the situation that just changed. And that's a decision model, a decision-making model that helps us prepare and to be able to take decisions in a fast manner.
The following table provides a list of cockpit effects that may occur during the GPS interference. So when something pops up, we can check the list if it's part of a possible GPS interference. I think we are all aware of this.
Yes.
So flight preparation, the flight crew should consider the following. The possibility to identify the entry and exit points of the interference area. We did. The possible effects of GPS interference on flight operations. We talked about that as well. The availability of routes, procedures and approaches that do not require GPS. For example, an ILS approach for the affected area. So we could possibly check our airports within those interference areas. Preliminary cockpit preparation. Perform a complete RS alignment if the flight crew expects long segments in airspaces with low radio muffet coverage.
We did.
We did.
As we
Check.
do on every flight.
If erroneous GPS data are observed or expected on ground,
Did not happen.
not applicable. Before the interference area, and now we are talking about the actual status. In order to maintain most ATC data link applications and the FMS predictions, the flight crew should apply the following. Clock int.
Checked.
When the clock is in int mode, so it means internal mode, the ADAC application is considered as not available. If the clock was previously synchronized with the GNSS, the int mode of the clock maintains all other ATC data link applications for 24 hours. Setting the clock to int mode might not prevent erroneous FMS time predictions in all cases. Very good. Within the interference area, we are about to enter in a couple of minutes, aircraft position monitor. The flight crew must regularly monitor the aircraft position using non-GPS references. GPS deselection, consider.
What we can see is we don't have any GPS position right now.
So luckily we still have all these old systems to help us navigate.
Yeah. As you can see, it's coming and going. That's what we talked about earlier.
Nav-
NAV FM, GPS position disagree. Okay. Ecom actions. Okay. We still have our inertial reference systems, which give us valid positions and can navigate with them. Some systems are dependent on the GPS and therefore they're not working right now, but that's no major issue as long as we know about it. Earlier on we entered the checklist for GNSS jamming, and we have a whole list of failures that come and go when GPS signals are jammed.
Yeah.
So therefore we're cancelling them so that the next time we hear a chime we know it's something different we should take care of.
Got it.
Right now we're in Saudi Arabian airspace. That's the zone where we're told you that on a separate frequency us pilots were broadcasting our position, because usually we had ADS-B reporting, so every aircraft was reporting its position and we were able to see them on the navigation display as well. And right now that is interfered, and therefore on this airway us pilots we report our position ourselves. Say right now we're in this flight level, overhead this waypoint, we're estimating the next waypoint, in our case the next southern airport, for example Dulab, at this time, at this flight level, moving southwards on this airway periodically, and the other aircraft as well, so we can build up a mental situational awareness. People always wonder, how do air traffic controllers separate the traffic? In most countries it's either by east-west traffic or north-south traffic, and when they do this like this with the odd and even levels, most of the conflicts already are resolved by themselves, so they only need to worry about crossing traffic but not about opposite traffic.
Switching briefly between the even and odd, that's madness.
Yeah, and it gets further complicated. Usually you follow just one airway and you have one direction continuously that you can follow. But due to all these restricted areas, due to conflict zones and so on, we now fly a combination of routes that sometimes require level changes and our attention.
What did you call the thing of just flying 2 miles to the east of the track?
That's called lateral offset procedure.
Strategic lateral offset procedure.
It gives ourselves a little bit of extra margin due to the ATC environment, which is not so super well. We communicate with other traffic on a separate frequency, and we just give ourselves a little bit distance from the airway where most of the aircraft would fly.
Yeah, you're supposed to never fly the same slop. One day you should be flying no slop, the other day you should be flying one slop, 1 mile right of track, the other day you should be flying 2 miles right of track. It really depends on the day and on the other traffic. For instance, when we fly to North America, we use it as well, and there we can usually see the other traffic, and if I see that the other traffic before me is flying 2 miles right of track, I can decide whether I take 0 miles or 1 mile. So now GPS is fully functional again.